Chapter 1. A Table for One. Jessica sat alone at a candlelit table near the Piazza Navona, swirling a glass of red wine, watching the way the light caught the whetstones of the cobblestone streets. Rome had always been on her list, but this was supposed to be a trip for two. She was about to finish her dessert when a deep voice interrupted her thoughts. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" She looked up into ocean blue eyes. Kevin, tall, American, a slightly crooked smile that felt like trouble and poetry at once. "No," she said, half smiling. "But you're bold." "Just hungry," he replied, sitting down before she could change her mind. For food and conversation. He ordered wine. They talked. About Rome, about being alone, about daring to feel something again. When the waiter brought the check, Kevin covered it. "You can get the next one." Jessica's heart skipped. "Next one." He leaned closer, eyes on her lips. "I'd really like to see you again." Chapter 2. Touches and Fountains. The next day, they met under the shadow of the Trevi Fountain. He had espresso, she had gelato. They walked, they teased, they brushed hands, too often to be accidental. They slipped down side streets, laughing, watching street performers, stealing glances when the other wasn't looking. Eventually, the sun dipped low. He stopped in front of a small door. "My place," he said, his voice low. Jessica hesitated, then nodded. Inside, the apartment was warm and smelled of citrus and books. She wandered near the open balcony, and Kevin stepped behind her, not touching, just close enough to feel. "May I?" he asked. She turned. "Yes." Their kiss was slow, no hunger, just curiosity. His hands were gentle but firm as they moved to her waist, and when she pressed against him, he exhaled into her mouth. He lifted her onto the edge of the kitchen counter. Her dress slipped from her shoulders like it had been waiting.
Rome faded.
All she could hear was breath and skin and soft moans that echoed off stone walls. Chapter 3. Daylight and Denial. Morning came golden. Jessica woke up tangled in sheets, Kevin's arm over her. Safe. Too safe. She slipped out of bed quietly. She wasn't used to this. Intimacy that didn't feel like control. Kevin found her on the balcony minutes later, wrapped in a sheet. "Running already?" he asked softly. "I'm not built for this," she replied. "For what?" He came closer. "Connection?" She didn't answer. He cupped her face. "I'm not asking for forever. Just now." She leaned into his hand. "Okay," she whispered. "Just now." Chapter 4. Rooftops and Rain. They spent days in museums and nights under covers. Jessica memorized the way Kevin whispered her name between kisses. Kevin memorized the way her fingers shook when she let go. One night, a storm rolled over Rome. Thunder shook the windows as they danced in the living room to old records. She wore one of his shirts. He wore nothing but want. He pushed her against the wall, kissing her hard. She moaned, legs wrapping around him. On the floor, in front of the fireplace, they shed all hesitation. She rode him slow, then fast, his hands gripping her hips, his voice raw with need. Later, breathless, skin slick with sweat, she whispered, "I don't want to leave. You don't have to. But I will." He kissed her wrist, then stayed night. Stay completely. Chapter 5. Goodbye, almost. Jessica's flight was in 12 hours. They walked the Tiber, not speaking. Their hands stayed together, fingers tightly intertwined like time would slow if they just held on tighter. That night, they didn't undress with urgency. They explored, like every kiss could last them weeks apart. Kevin whispered every place he loved on her body. She mapped his soul with her tongue. Their climax was quiet, eyes open, hands clutching. A kind of goodbye that felt too holy to be casual.
Afterward, she cried.
"I didn't come here for this." He smiled sadly. "Neither did I." Chapter 6. A Ticket to Stay. At the airport, she stood frozen at the gate. Her chest ached. Kevin was back at the apartment, waiting, hoping, hurting. Jessica handed her boarding pass to the agent, and then pulled it back. "I'm not ready." She turned and walked away, heart pounding. Back in Rome, Kevin opened the door and found her standing there, soaked from the rain. "You stayed," he whispered. She dropped her bag. "I chose you." He pulled her in. And in that small Roman apartment, under a stormy sky, they made love not like it was the end, but like it was the beginning. Chapter 7. The morning after staying. Jessica woke in Kevin's arms, sunlight filtering through gauzy curtains. Her decision to stay was still echoing in her chest, thrilling and terrifying. "You're really here," Kevin murmured, lips brushing her shoulder. "I am." He kissed a trail down her spine, each touch awakening her skin. She turned to him, wrapping her legs around his waist. Their bodies moved like they had the first night, but now slower, full of something deeper. "I'm not used to staying," she whispered after. "I'm not used to someone choosing me," he said. Chapter 8. Streetlight Confessions. They explored the Trastevere district that evening, walking past graffiti-covered walls and ivy-strewn balconies. The city hummed around them, vibrant, alive. Over dinner in a quiet piazza, Kevin took her hand. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Before Rome, I didn't think I could fall again." She looked up. "And now?" she asked. "I don't want to fall," he said softly. "I want to build. With you." Jessica's chest tightened. She leaned across the table, kissed him, and whispered, "Let's build slowly, brick by brick." Chapter 9. Jealous Shadows. At an exhibit, an old flame of Jessica's appeared, Marco, a suave Italian photographer with hungry eyes and a too familiar touch. Kevin watched, jaw tight. Later in the apartment, silence hung heavy. "Is there something I should know?" Kevin asked, voice low. Jessica looked at him. "I left that behind."
He shows you.
"But does he still have part of you?" She came close, kissed his chest.
No.
"Only you see me now." They made love hard that night, not out of lust, but need. Kevin claimed every part of her with touch, and she let him. Chapter 10. The Pause. As days passed, real life crept in. Kevin got an offer, a job in Paris. Jessica was invited to join a 6-month art retreat in Florence. The future cracked open. They lay in bed, tension buzzing between kisses. "What if this is just Rome?" she asked. "What if it's the start of everywhere?" he replied. Neither answered. Not really. That night, their bodies clung tighter, as if love could override distance. Chapter 11. Love Without Borders. In the airport, again. But this time, they kissed goodbye with no tears. Kevin was headed to Paris, Jessica to Florence. But now they had something they didn't before: trust. "We'll visit," she said. "We'll write." Kevin pressed a note into her hand before she boarded. She opened it hours later. "No matter the country, the city, the bed. If you're in it, I'm home." And somewhere over the Mediterranean, Jessica smiled. Chapter 12. Letters Across Cities. They kept their promise. Visits between Paris and Florence, long weekends, early trains, late dinners. But the real thread holding them together? Letters. Handwritten, messy, erotic, emotional. Jessica's letters smelled like turpentine and sunlight. Kevin's like ink and longing. One read: "Last night I dreamed of your hands on my hips, not gently." The kind of want that leaves fingerprints on the soul. Their letters were love, therapy, foreplay. One envelope held a pressed flower, another a key. Chapter 13. The Woman in Paris. Her name was Amélie, a colleague, French, elegant. Jessica met her during a visit. She noticed the way Amélie looked at Kevin, casually possessive. Later, in their hotel, Jessica asked, "Did anything happen?" Kevin stared at her.
No.
But I could tell she was waiting for a crack. Jessica ran her fingers down his bare chest. "Good thing you're sealed tight." "I only opened for you," he murmured, flipping her onto the bed. That night, they made love like they were proving something. Because maybe they were. Chapter 14. The Exhibition. Jessica's work was chosen for an international show in Rome. Full circle. She invited Kevin, unsure if he'd come. He arrived just before the opening, in a black suit, red tie, and the same crooked smile from that first night. Her centerpiece was a massive painting titled, "The Man I Stayed For." People stared. Kevin stared longer. Later, alone in a private gallery room, he kissed her hard against the canvas. "Rome missed you," he said, "only because it remembered us." Chapter 15. One More Choice. Over espresso at a rooftop cafe, Kevin offered something unexpected. "I've been offered a position back in the States, but I don't want it unless you're coming with me." Jessica looked out at the skyline. "What if I'm not done here?" He reached for her hand. "Then I'll wait. Or come to Florence. Or stay in Rome." "I don't want you to follow me," she said. "I'm not following," he replied. "I'm choosing. Every day. just like you did.
Chapter 16, Rome, Roriten.
They found a new apartment in Rome, sunlit, high ceilings, paint-streaked floors. Kevin taught remote classes. Jessica opened a small studio. They cooked, danced, argued, loved. Wildly, softly, completely. On their anniversary, Jessica whispered, "Do you remember the first night? I remember the way you looked at me like I was more than a stranger." "You were," she said. "You were already home." And that night, as Rome pulsed beyond their windows, they made love slowly, deliberately, like people who had nothing to prove, only everything to feel.